Hello, everyone, and welcome to From Vulnerable to Verified, Modernizing Healthcare Security Validation with BAS. Now, today's webinar is sponsored by Picus and produced by ActualTech Media. My name is Keith Ward, and I am a moderator with that very same ActualTech Media. We are a future B2B company, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here today. This is going to be a great event, and I need to start out by covering a few housekeeping items. Now, a bunch of you have already gotten the hang of the first part, which is the chat tab over there on the far right-hand side of your screen. This is where we hang out during the event, sending emojis, having all kinds of fun. So, first question I have for all of you today, how hot is it where you are and what are you doing to stay cool? Let us know in that chat area. Where I am, the temperature is 96 degrees and the heat index, which adds humidity into that, is 105 degrees. In scientific technical terms, that's what is known as really stinking hot. So what I am doing to help out with that is drinking out of my snowflake coffee cup. You see that? See, it's a snowflake, which somehow makes me feel cooler. I don't know if it works for you, but it does for me. All right. So if you have a snowflake coffee cup, go grab it now. Daniel says 71 in LA. I don't envy you. Hey, Daniel, the heat is coming your way, I swear. All right, so William says 94 and feels like 102 in South Georgia. I used to live near South Georgia. I know exactly how that feels. Chet says it is 92 where he is. So this is going to be a hot time today too, I promise. Now, chat is also the place to know to get help with any technical issues that you've got during the session. Now, the first thing you want to do if you can't hear or see something is a browser refresh, which typically gets rid of those issues. Sometimes it takes 2 refreshes. If that doesn't fix it, my outstanding colleague Deanna and I are standing by to help you out. So let us know over in the chat. Okay, Kyle says it's 99 in Raleigh, North Carolina. It feels like 111. So you've got me beat, Kyle, and I am not upset at all to let you have that crown as the hottest place we have seen. Justin says 97 yesterday. Today is 80 in Milwaukee. Tomorrow 68. I think I may have to get on a flight to Milwaukee right after this event. All right. Let's take a hop over the middle of the chat tab and head over to the Q&A tab. Now, make sure you know where that is because that is where you ask questions directly of our expert presenters today and the Picus team. So the distinction there is chat is where we just talk back and forth, send emojis, all of that. Q&A is where you go specifically to ask questions. Just try to keep that distinction in mind if you can. Now, in the middle of those two is the Docs tab. We have got some great content to go along with the webinar there, including fantastic resources from Picus. So click around in that Docs section and explore a little bit. All right. It is also not just awesome content that you're going to get today. We also have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. All winners must meet the ActualTech Media Prize terms and conditions, which are also in the Docs tab. Just click and scroll down to find them. I try to say that fast like the TV announcers do. Finally, you can set the language and the closed captioning in the lower right-hand part of your screen. If you need those functions, there are multiple languages available. All right, Nick says low 70s in Seattle. So that sounds like Seattle to me. I don't know if it's raining there, or Nick, you need to give us an update with that. All right. So now that we have got weather reports from all over the country, why don't we get to our session? I am so excited to introduce you to our expert speakers today. You see them right there up on the screen. They are true experts in their field, and I am looking forward to chatting with them. We are going to have a great time. So let's head over there right now. Joining me today are 2 fantastic speakers who bring both strategic and hands-on experience in healthcare and cybersecurity. First, we have Omar Sangurima. Omar, it's great to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great to be here, Keith. Thanks for having me. Omar Sangurima, Program Manager at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. been in cybersecurity for about 11 years, at the hospital for 6. Did a little dissertation work prior to joining up with MSK. So healthcare and cybersecurity in healthcare has been a passion of mine for almost a decade at this stage.
Awesome. Okay, and our other expert today is Huseyin Can Yüceel. Huseyin, it is great to have you here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Keith. I'm Huseyin Can Yüceel from Picus. I am the security research lead at Picus Security, and I've been with the company for 3.5 years and in the industry for a decade now. I have expertise on offensive security and threat intelligence. Now we have a lot of stuff going on in the healthcare industry in terms of cybersecurity. That's why I'm here today.
It is great to have you both here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So let's dive in. Now, we know that healthcare is under more pressure than ever. Sensitive patient data, legacy systems, and growing digitalization make the sector a prime target for attackers. So let's start with an overview of the current kind of state of affairs. So, Hussein, first to you. What is the state of security in the healthcare industry at this moment?
The healthcare industry uses more computers and digital systems more than ever, and they are trying to digitize their systems more and more. However, they are not going in a secure state way to do it. So they are experiencing a lot of threats from the outside, and they are experiencing a lot of alerts from these threats. So however, they are not keeping up. They are not able to keep up with these threats, and the complexity in the cybersecurity space is overwhelmed the already short-handed uh, SOC teams in the healthcare industry. So they are trying to handle all of these alerts and all of these threats by themselves. However, at the same time, they are not, uh, they have a lot of shortage in their resources.
That is so true. And in fact, we all know the old saying that every IT worker, every IT admin is used to do more with less, right? And that is never more true than it is today. Omar, now you have hands-on experience in the challenges that we have been talking about that Hussein just did an overview of. Which of them is the most challenging from your perspective?
I think Hussein highlighted the ever persistent threat fatigue or alert fatigue that I think is one of the things that really hits the team hard. In cybersecurity is a field where folks you get into it. If you stay in it, you're dedicated, right? So you want to do the best job possible that you can. You add that to that mix the aspect of doing it for healthcare, doing it at a hospital. So mission driven is going to be high on the list of folks that stay in this particular niche of the field. You add that to just the absolute barrage of alerts and being able to try to find the signal inside that noise is one of, I think, the most persistent challenges that faces our teams. And as you said, trying to do more with less. You want to be good stewards of the resources that you're given, but how do you manage the seemingly only increasing level of alerts and noise that come in every day? Gone are the times when there was seemingly a moratorium on targeting hospitals. I think if there was, if it ever was there, it definitely went away with COVID, and now it's just open season. Right, PHI is there, money is there to be made. Unfortunately, with taking over PHI or compromising systems and ransoming them. So I think just being able to make sure that you're focusing on the right things at the right time is a big time challenge in this field.
Omar, that's a great point. We are in the era where the bad guys, the ransomware groups like that, like you said at the beginning, maybe they wouldn't have gone after hospital environments, for example, because of the stakes are so high, but they don't care anymore. It seems like they are doing exactly that. So, given all the challenges that you've been discussing, the limited resource, alert fatigue, growing attack surfaces, how can security teams validate whether their defenses are actually working day to day? Because it's one thing, I think you would agree with me, to have them in place, but do you actually really know if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
It's always very tough, as you alluded to, the old sayings in the IT field. One of them, of course, is you don't want to do any test work in prod. But then at the same time, how are you validating, as you said, that these controls or that the changes you've made, the stuff you pushed out to prod actually works? When it comes to a hospital environment, that's really never more true. No IT team wants to be, especially the security team, of course, wants to be the team that brought something down that was involved in patient care or that could potentially delay much needed, patient access to technology or services. But on the flip side, how do you make sure that, wait a second, are we positive that these controls are resilient? So you really get sucked into a dance, I believe, where you're trying to test as close to prod as you can, or maybe you're testing production or live environments during off hours if you have change management board or whatnot. But in all reality, there's always been the, I don't know, maybe the golden goose or the holy grail of being able to consistently test your defenses in an actual production setting in an ongoing fashion. So with that, I think the latest stream of breach attack simulations where you can kind of just I'm gonna go back into the vault with the Ron Popeil, right? The set it and forget it. You can turn this on, you can have it poking at your defenses, and then you can get a continuous stream of data of what's working, what's not, and actual validation in a live setting, while then also being able to watch out for not bringing the house down. So it's hitting that nice medium if you calibrate it the right way. But that's definitely an avenue that I see a lot more teams going in that direction.
Absolutely. Now, Hussein, Omar mentioned the breach attack simulation, or BAS, being used in their tool set. And this is something I think we could all like to learn a little bit more about. So can you explain what BAS is and then how it works?
Let me first give a visual example on this. Uh, as Omar said, hospitals and healthcare systems are under threat by the threat landscape. Adversaries are picking up on them because they see that there's their easy target for them. They have the valuable data. They are much more vulnerable than our average organization because they do not have that resources to maintain their security posture. However, they are also trying to do their best with their prevention layer. They are trying to prevent some threats with their firewalls, IPSs, and web application firewalls. Even if they cannot prevent all of them, they are trying to detect with SIEM and EDR systems, so they can address those incidents and those threats by identifying the malicious actions and trying to uh, do their work and respond on those alerts. However, these kind of technologies are not set and forget type of technologies. So you need to maintain your firewall, you need to maintain your EDR so you can get the most out of them. They are valuable tools. They work when they are configured correctly. In that regard, breach attack simulations are always stress testing those technologies at different levels. So with breach attack simulation technology, we try to infiltrate some malware into the system. We try to exploit the endpoint systems and cloud systems and try to move between the systems so we can reach valuable data, because valuable data often are not stored in the edge of the network, but well deep in within the network. So if we want to, as an attacker, we want if they want to access those critical data, they need to move between the systems so they can reach critical data and exfiltrate it or encrypt it for ransom. So breach and attack simulation technology tries all these attack vectors and replicates it in the system without harming it. So when we deploy a ransomware scenario in the healthcare organization, we do not encrypt the system. However, we show that we can encrypt the system. However, we did not, because we want to keep the patient data safe and the organization safe.
Okay. Fascinating. Now to you then, Omar, how do security teams and healthcare organizations utilize these breach and attack simulations for their operations? How are you seeing it used?
So I think really it's kind of a two pronged approach, right? Straight up, as Hussein mentioned, it allows you to recursively go back to SIM, EDR, the IPS, the IDS, that whole tech stack, and go say, listen, what went through? What are we surprised? What are we happy that got stopped? Did it alert where it should have? You're able to then, because he mentioned if it's configured correctly, this all works. And if is doing a big lift in that sentence, because yes, it can be configured correctly, but then it can be configured correctly at that point in time. With the changing threat landscape, what worked yesterday or what worked this afternoon won't work tomorrow morning. Right? That's the whole concept of 0 days or polymorphic sort of threats and malware, where it can go, okay, wait a second, that stopped me here, but it's not going to stop me there. Or you cross your fingers and hope that your entire organization and the entire threat landscape is configured correctly and locked down the right way. So from an operational perspective, it allows you to validate in a heck of a lot closer real time than you could prior, seeing where the holes are, what works, what didn't, what we need to go back to, what is maybe not a tool deficiency, but potentially a process deficiency. Because as he mentioned, those spots where they could ransom something, but they didn't, sometimes that's not necessarily, on the radar of the security team, right? Hey, we assumed that these backups worked. We assumed that, we had an enclave that was separate from the rest of the network, but oh, wait, we didn't know that there was ingress from there. And then now that's not quite tucked away as we thought it was. So from an operational perspective, that's really, I think, where I've seen folks lean on these types of systems to continuously validate and continuously improve the tech stack and the processes. From a governance standpoint, it really has become, governance team's dream on both sides of the coin there, whether they're doing any auditing, so the validation is there real time, or whether they have to do any artifact collection and you have to go and prove that something worked. It's such a blessing to not have to go in there and say, hey, listen, we got to take a screenshot, and we got to take a screenshot at the right time, and we have to have, by the way, you have to have your clock showing on your screen at the same time as you're taking the screenshot to show that it was today, almost like holding up a digital newspaper for a sign of life. It's one of those things. You can just sit there and show the output from this type of breach and attack simulation tool and say, listen, at this time it worked. When do you want me to show you again? I can, right? And it's just a continuous stream of data so that you don't have to go then spelunking for artifacts to show any auditors or regulators on your end.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that, because since we are traditionally doing penetration testing in our environment, we know what penetration testing does. It's in compliance systems. It's in our lawmaking framework. So we all know what pen testing does. However, pen testing already takes a snapshot of the system once a year. So, however, you deploy another tool maybe every month, every 6 months, and those configurations are drifts from original systems to SVUs, and new vulnerabilities are discovered every day. So we do not we cannot rely on that snapshot for a whole year. We need to validate all, and this cannot be done manually, because we do not have that kind of resources, we do not have that kind of people, so we can do it 724 and we cannot validate all the new techniques. We cannot learn them fast enough to test it in our systems, because our systems are already working in the production. And also our SOC teams already have a bunch of alerts they received from yesterday. They need to take care of those. They need to patch vulnerable systems. So they do not often have that time to validate the system, that they can say that we are vulnerable against this type of exploit or another one, because the new one is always coming every day. So we need to automate this kind of stuff. Otherwise, we cannot keep up with it.
That is so true, Hussein. I mean, it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't matter how big or small an organization you have. Automation is no longer optional in my way of thinking. Manual processes in today's environment, in this connected environment that we have where the entire globe is connected now, there simply is too much out there, even for a one person operation, to do any of this manually. We've been talking about alert fatigue several times. Imagine that single admin, trying to keep up with all of those alerts. I mean, automation must be a part of it. So that's a great insight there. Now I want to move on a little bit to the benefits of these breach and attack simulations and the proof that it provides for compliance. So Hussein, you mentioned that the BAS automates security validation, as we were just saying, but it's also true, is it not, that a security team's job is not only identifying gaps, they also have other tasks like fixing the gaps and providing reports for auditors. So how does the BAS help on those fronts?
Actually, the thing I like most about the breach and attack simulation is that breach and attack simulation shows that you have security gaps. However, in most cases, there are a lot of tools that saying that something is not working. For healthcare organizations, for healthcare SOC teams, it doesn't add value to their job, because they have a bunch of stuff that is already broken. They know that. They are trying to keep up with that. But once you introduce breach and attack simulation into their environment, now there's another tool that says that you have something broken. They do not need that. They need something that fixes that. That they need something that elevates their alert fatigue, and so they can respond those threats meaningfully. With breach attack simulation, there's not always in the name it says that it's an attack simulation. However, it should not be stopped there. It needs to provide the solution with itself. In this example, I show two tabs. In the first tab, it's a ransomware deployment, and in this example, the breach attack simulation simulated a ransomware sample in the target environment, and it's not blocked. It's logged. It's alerted. So security team knows that it didn't block, but you know that there is a security alert about it. What you should do is that you need to configure your security system so that it can block it, and so it does not create an alert in your system, and you should not be worrying about that threat, because your firewall or your IPS is blocking it already. With breach and attack simulation, there is another side of the tool, is that it provides prevention signatures. It says that if you are using checkpoint, you should deploy this signature, so this ransomware sample will be blocked in the future. So you can rerun the attack and see that previously it was not blocked, but now with this deployment of the signature, it's blocked. So it's not creating more problems for the healthcare SOC team. Now it provides a solution with it, so they can go about it with their day. So it's fixed.
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah, that's really a striking example right there of how it works and how it ends up protecting you. Omar, again, you're working in this field every day. So how have you seen healthcare organizations use the breach and attack simulation data to satisfy compliance audits or regulatory reviews. I mean, it seems like every day that there are new rules, new requirements, new regulations coming out that healthcare organizations have to meet.
And one side of me says, right, I chuckled internally when you said that, but one side of me definitely says, hey, and for good reason, right? We're playing with live ammo. It's a field that's dealing with people's health and safety and very, very private information many times. So you get why there's going to be a shifting landscape when it comes from the regulatory angle. Understood. However, the reality is it can be quite hectic to deal with or to keep up with. And to Husein's point, the last thing you want is another blinky box telling you, hey, this is terrible. You should do something about that, right? Like, I'm just time as a SOC analyst many moons ago, but you just get discouraged sometimes. No matter how mission driven you are and how on top of your thing, your workflows you are, it can get to you, which is why SOC especially is such a high burnout angle of this field. I think the way that you're able to keep up with it is very similar to what Huseyin mentioned. It's many times your regulatory folks are going to go, and this is good and bad, right? It's not going to be necessarily as prescriptive as you might want it. Like, hey, give me a list and I'll do these 10 things and I'll be fine. What you're going to get is, hey, you should do, and this is the type of broader outcome you should attain, right? Manage identities securely is a line that's in many control frameworks, inside of many laws. But folks, what the heck does that mean? Right? It can mean different things to different folks. As long as you're able to show that you are making good faith efforts of actually trying to get to those outcomes, you're doing the regulatory angle the right way. Right? Hey, I look at gaps, I remediate them. No regulations are coming out and saying no gaps or get out of the field, right? Because that's just not attainable. It's not realistic. But if at least you have tooling and you have processes that are able to show you or to show that you're making that good faith effort, that you're continuously monitoring your environment. And I'll take a step back here. This type of tooling, right, breach and attack simulations, are really going to be at that more mature end of your like more of your continuous monitoring or your optimized phase for maturity. This really, what I've seen it be most effective is when it overlays the rest of the stack that Huseyin mentioned. So this is not to say that, hey, right off the bat you're gonna pop this open. No, there has to be a supporting infrastructure there. What I can say is that you then can do more with less, or at least that overworked team is going to feel like it's making a difference. It's boiling the ocean a little bit more. It's making a dent, right, in all that technical debt and all that alert debt that it has, because that's not insignificant. Those alerts are there for a reason, right? So you don't want to just sit there and go, you know what, can't deal with them today, or as Huseyin mentioned, oh, that's yesterday's stuff. I can't keep up with today's issues or tomorrow's stuff that's going to come in 0 day wise. So it allows you to show and have receipts, as the kids say, of I'm making strides every day to seek out gaps, remediate them as I can, elevate them if I need a risk decision, from the business side of things. And that, unless you're working with either, draconian auditors or people that just straight away don't like it, or unfortunately, if you've violated trust prior as an organization and you don't get that benefit of the doubt, this type of tool set can allow you to go, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing it in a continuous way, and I'm doing it as efficiently as possible. So auditors and regulators work with you, or are more inclined to, with
Uh,
that in mind.
Actually, in my previous work, I used to work as an auditor, and I was audited many times. In that environment, auditors are not trying to get you; they are trying to understand your system. and see that whether you can withstand a possible attack and whether you are complying with regulations, whatever they are. Whether it is a HIPAA law or it's a PCI DSS framework, whatever it is, they are trying to understand your system and say that you are complying with this, but we are not complying with that. So uh, if I were the auditor, I would try to see that some compliance matters are fulfilled. So with breach and attack simulation, it's much easier because it's since the validation stuff is automated, it's already generating proof that you are blocking or not blocking a certain threat. In that sense, when auditor comes to your organization or your desk and they see that in this environment you are blocking 50% of the threats, you are detecting 59% of the threats, so they can see that you are trying and you are proving that with hard evidence. You are not guessing, you are not saying that we are doing that but it's working or not. It's hard proof. When it comes to audits, it's the hard proof speaks louder than any other stuff. So you can show that we are doing it, it's working or not. In that sense, breach attack simulation is a great tool, not for fixing the identifying and fixing the gaps, but also for the hard proof and the
proving.
reporting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Such a great and valuable point to bring up, Hüseyin. And I think it's worth repeating. Auditors, they're not the enemy. They are not your enemy. They want you to succeed. I mean, they know that what you're doing is really important and really necessary. So they are trying to assist you, not trying to come down on you or catch you in something. I think that's so important, to get out there. 100%. Omar, is that kind of been your experience with auditors as well?
Absolutely, and it I think it shows, the whole system is set up to achieve that outcome, right? Like the reason why there's even an auditory framework, especially for sure in healthcare, but in other industry niches, it's we want to protect X assets, whether it's data, whether it's specific infrastructure, depending on the business vertical we're talking about. So auditors are there to really try to point to, hey, this is where maybe there's some gaps. This is where you could shore things up. I think it's it's a viewpoint I've come to appreciate more over time. I'll be honest there. Maybe when I first started, it just seemed like, wait a second, I'm trying my best. Why? What's going on? Please help me out. But in all reality, when you're able to then go back and say, here, Mr. or Miss Auditor, this is the hard proof, as Hüseyin said, it's truly invaluable. I was chuckling when I mentioned the screenshot with your clock and calendar up, but I think all of us here, we've been in those situations where that's the best you can offer. And again, it goes into a portfolio of, if that organization is at least showing that they're trying, then maybe that screenshot with the calendar is okay. But what's not a maybe is if I can just straight up pull logs and show you proof that my BAS has been running. It finds things, we remediate them. We have playbooks and workflows that are as quick to honor the automation that's helping us out as they can be. And we're making constant progress, right? There's no wiggle room for, does this look right? Hüseyin, like, I'm sure you've looked at artifacts and you've gone, maybe based on who's giving them, they've established trust where I see what they're saying and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. This removes that wiggle room and I think helps both sides of the auditor exchange. The auditors are more, I think, sure about what they're auditing. And then also the folks that are getting audited are more positive about, okay, am I hitting the mark? Because if I'm not, I want to know and I want to adjust. So we have a better conversation next week or next quarter or whatnot, right? And then there it has the byproduct of shoring up threats to sensitive data, right? Which is ultimately, what the whole thing is for.
Yeah, we all try to prove that we are secure in our environment,
Mhm.
or we are trying to prove that we are working towards some objective,
Yes.
whether it's the objective is securing patient data or securing the entire system.
Mhm.
When it comes to audits, or when it comes to fixing these kind of gaps on the go, we are trying to see that whether it is working or not. Because in most cases, you may not be able to patch a certain asset because it's
Mhm.
always online. It needs to be always online. So you need to defend that asset until you can patch it. Or if that vulnerable asset is not patchable, it's not possible in that sense, the auditor will say that I understand the issue, you cannot patch it, but show me the proof that you are defending it.
Yeah.
So with breach and attack simulation, we are not always saying that go ahead and patch that system. We are also offer some mitigations suggestions so that the security team can put a firewall in front of the vulnerable asset and say that we are blocking these type of attacks. We know that it's outdated system, but we need to use it because currently we need it. However, uh, with the breach and attack simulation, we are running constantly attacking the system. However, it's not exploitable yet with the known threats, with the known malicious actions. So the auditor then knows that it's blocked, it's safe, and I can sign it off, and the audit can be done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the great relief for both sides.
One final point on that, and then we're going to get into some Q&A. I think this has been a great discussion about this. And it seems to me that if you go in with the mindset of, hey, I'm not even worried about the audit now. That's where you want to be, because that's an indication that you are secure, that your systems are properly guarded and all of that. Wouldn't that be a nice place to be, instead of dreading the audit, saying, hey, it's not such a big deal because we know we've got our breach and attack simulations in place. We know we are properly protected from what's out there, instead of stressing about it and breaking out in cold sweat, using the potential audit as an opportunity to make sure that you're secure. That's essentially what you're telling the auditor, and that is where you know you need to be. So, such good insights there, gentlemen. I appreciate that so much. It seems clear to me that automation and continuous validation, which we've been talking about, are becoming essential, especially in the face of growing threats, complex systems, compliance pressures, all those things that we have been talking about. And this has been a great conversation. Before we dive into the Q&A now, I just wanted to see if you had any final thoughts before we do some Q&A.
Mark, you first.
Sure. Yeah. That state would be, I think, the ideal, right? Where you're going, listen, and it's not lip service where you're saying, hey, I'm partnering with this auditor. That then it becomes, because then it becomes much more of a partnership of, we're just straight up protecting what we should be stewards of. And at the very least, a breach and attack simulation tool set can create a situation where you're not surprised, right? If I feel much more solid if I sit in front of an auditor and go, listen, yeah, I know that's going on. As Huseyin mentioned, I know we can't patch that. If we patch it, it'll blow up, right? But we can put stuff around it, and then not hope that it's something that's occurring. We know that we've put mitigations in place, and here's the proof. That is, you can breathe a sigh of relief. You can walk in, and then the confidence that gives you to talk about anything else that an auditor wants to look at, then it's invaluable.
As they always say, Omar, hope is not a strategy, right?
No, no, that's it. Yep, yeah.
Huseyin, some final thoughts before we dive into some questions.
Uh, as cybersecurity professionals, we wake up to a new day and new reality every day. So when we see a new ransomware type or new vulnerability, we are always excited to see that how it works, how it does how can it affect us. So we want to see that whether we can withstand it, we can defend ourselves. With which attack simulation, you can do it with a few clicks. So it gives you the simulation results and say that you are defending yourself or not. And here's the way to mitigate this threat. And after that, it automatically creates some reports for you. You can show to your boss, show to your board, or show to your auditors. So it covers a lot of grounds with one tool. So it's a great tool for uh, for healthcare organizations, because we know that they do not have that type of resources to do all the time, because banks have those kind of uh, uh, resources on their side. Governments have that kind of resources on their side. However, healthcare organizations do not. So it's a great tool to have on their side.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, let's get to some Q&A. We've got a lot of great questions coming in, a lot of interest from the audience. So let's get to the first one here. How disruptive is it to run breach and attack simulations in a live healthcare environment? Really good question.
Uh, let's give an example on ransomware. You can either deploy ransomware in the target system and say that we breach one system, we move to another one and another one, then we infected the entire network. With breach and attack simulation, we simulate all those kind of attacks, and after we reach to the objective, we raise a flag and say that I got you, but we didn't encrypt. With this kind of simulations, we can say that an adversary were able to exploit these type of vulnerabilities and chain them back to back to create a network-wide attack, uh, and show that these are the weak points. However, we do not exploit those points. So in this sense, breach attack simulation is safe to run in a production environment.
That'd be
I agree. I mean, it's one of those where I've seen it best used to support and expand the roles of, say, tabletops, where you can, and then it's really allowed teams I've seen to sell tabletops a bit better, right? Because you always face that question. Either we do a very low fidelity tabletop, and it's literally a tabletop. We all sit around and we go, "What would happen if XYZ occurred?" And that's better than not doing anything, where you at least have different folks talking to each other that maybe wouldn't, right? In a cybersecurity, up until an actual cyber incident. But then you're not really, as Hussein said, showing is specifically how certain chains of attacks would get around defenses that you thought had it all handled. And you want to sweat more now and bleed less later whenever possible in this environment. So breach and attack simulation, I think, if you're thinking about it, or you're on the fence about introducing it because, oh no, this is going to knock over things and it's going to break stuff and we can't have that in a healthcare environment. I think at least having the aperture in your strategy of, hey, maybe this can supplement a tabletop, and then growing it from there, I think could probably alleviate some pulses if you're on the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Next question. Can breach and attack simulations integrate with our existing security stack? There's a two-parter. Second part is how actionable are the BAS findings for a lean SOC team?
Uh, let's start with another example. A new vulnerability is popped up, and you need to validate against it. So you try to run an attack simulation with it, and it says that you are blocking or not blocking, or detecting or not detecting it. With the integrations included in the breach and attack simulation, we can integrate with your existing security tool. For example, if you have a checkpoint firewall or Splunk scene, we can collect data from them, and we can say that you do not have that signature on your firewall enabled, so you are not able to block it. With the mitigation suggestions, we say that here is the relevant vendor specific mitigation suggestion. You should go ahead and apply it. After that, you should rerun the attack simulation, see that it's blocking, and with that uh, results, you can see that how actionable actually the breach and attack simulation findings, and it integrates with your existing security stack with different vendors, whether you are using a well-known vendor or if you are using an open source tool. It does not matter for breach and attack simulation.
Okay. All right. Moving along here. This is such great stuff. Next question. Another two-parter. If we remediate a security gap, can we show auditors that we retested and closed it? And is that documented in the breach and attack simulation?
This is one that hounds my teams. So I'll take it I'll take first stab. Yes, right. I think like part the whole one of the best parts of this tool set is that you can do that, and you do it continuously, and you can show that again we're not somehow seeing into the future and getting ahead of 0 days, right? If that was the case, then we should bottle that up and sell it. But it's a matter of at least showing that I took a snapshot of my environment right now, worked it, found some holes, plugged them. Here's the new state, and it does that in a way, right, to kind of speak to the previous questions point. It does it in a pretty lean way. Right? You can have a SOC analyst integrate this into their already existing playbooks and workflows, and it's not like you need new FTEs or new resources or outsource or insource or whatever. You don't have to say, listen, would that I could if I could add another 10 headcount. That's one of the more powerful applications I've seen here, where it kind of plugs into the stack, handles it, shows that you did, keeps a running tally, and then allows you to keep it moving and focus on whatever other fire is going on that day.
And there's usually multiple ones. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, with the breach attack simulation, you can run the same simulation back to back, and we enable our users to schedule those kind of threat simulations, so for example, they can run the same attack simulation every day, every morning. So when the audit comes, they can show that they purposefully tested against that certain threat every day, and say that we were able to block it yesterday, we are not blocking today, but we will be blocking tomorrow. So in that kind of historical graphs, we can show that we are blocking it, and we retest it against it. So breach attack simulation keeps track of your security controls for one attack vector or from a perspective of single security controls. So it can document the entire history for you.
Excellent. Okay, next up, are we able to simulate an insider threat scenario, like an authenticated user exfiltrating records from a patient database? And for those who are not super familiar, this happens a lot, for instance, in ransomware attacks. It's called double extortion a lot of times. So go ahead.
Uh, in the insider threat scenarios, we have a user that has already access to the system. So assume that a malicious employee trying to steal the patient data from your systems. However, you should configure your DLP, or data loss prevention system, to prevent that kind of attack. And you should train your DLP to understand that certain file formats should not be moving out of certain locations. With breach attack simulation, we have two options for different organizations in different locations. We have data sets predefined for you, so you can run those attack simulations to and see that we are trying with breach attack simulation, we try to steal that data from endpoint to our cloud system, and we expect your DLP to block it. In the second scenario, you can upload your own data sets with anonymization, of course, your data sets, and try to exploit those data sets from your system to the cloud, to our cloud. So with that kind of attack simulation, we can run insider threat scenarios and train your DLP in a correct way.
Great. Okay, this next question sounds like it comes from someone who has direct experience with ransomware. So,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, this sounds like a real world thing that happened. Can we model ransomware behavior step by step, not just payload execution, but also things like shadow copy deletion and privilege escalation?
Actually, when it comes to ransomware evolved a lot. In the early iterations, the adversary is trying to get your patient data and try to encrypt it as soon as possible. However, they later found out that people have backups, so they restore their backups and go back to operations as soon as possible with minimal losses. However, after they found out that backups are working against them, they started to delete those backups before encryption. So the victim has to pay the ransom to get their data. Uh, since this new iteration of ransomware attacks, breach attack simulations are also learned that these type of scenarios are also already out there. So we baked these type of threats into our system so we can replicate those kind of attacks. In that example, we we compromise the entire system. We purposefully create a volume shadow copy, a dummy one, and delete that one and see that whether your endpoint is detecting that kind of deletion, because they are using similar command line execution tactics to delete those backups. So we are trying to understand that whether you can block that kind of malicious action or not.
And what I love about the tool set is, and Hüseyin did a really good job at making a complex chain of events really simple. But I want to just interject here and say it is a complex chain, and this type of tool set allows you to check at many stage gates whether you have the safety and security that you think you have. It lets you verify that yes, I've set up different environments. Yes, I make sure that if I do have the golden copies, that they're in a location that is truly purposefully difficult to get to from my production environment, right? Because that's one of the whole points. If it's, you think it's tucked away and it's not, and you don't want to find out, right, when you're getting the Bitcoin request. So that entire chain can be continuously validated, and that validation, as Hüseyin said in the previous answer to the previous question, it can be validated today. It can change tomorrow, and maybe some folks who are not in the industry might go, well, why the heck would that happen? Configuration changes in your environment, right? Maybe folks aren't talking to each other as they should, but it happens. And somebody went and changed, route tables somewhere, and suddenly you're more exposed than you were, or potentially you do have the right backups in place and you do have the right workflows, but things aren't talking to each other that should. This type of tool set in the background, without your FTE resources focusing on it, will do that validation and surface the things that really need human sets of eyes on, as you go through. So Hüseyin, way to go. It's a whole accordion of processes that this thing can check continuously.
But Omar, how could that be? There's no more misconfiguration errors out there, are there? Configuration errors don't happen anymore. We all know that,
Sure.
right?
Oh, the vibe coding took care of that, right, Keith? The vibe coding
That's
just took care of all sorts of
exactly
config errors, right? We're all out of a job.
that's
No, I wish.
For those of you who don't know me, that's sarcasm. It seems like misconfiguration errors have been with us since the beginning and will be there with us to the very end. So that's the perfect reason for something like this. Absolutely. Okay. I have enjoyed this so much. I've learned so much. We have time for one more question, I think, before we are out of time today, and it is this. And this, I like the kind of little bit of paranoia attached to this question. How often is the threat library updated with new attacker behaviors like recent ransomware or APT campaigns?
As Picus, we track CISA alerts, we track FBI alerts, so we can be on top of the threats and keep track of the threat landscape. We also have our own CTI tools, so we can turn the threat intelligence into actionable attack simulations. So we have SLAs for it. For example, for CISA alerts, we have 24 hours SLA. However, I haven't I haven't seen any 24-hour additions to the system. We all already covered that within 6 to 8 hours. So you are covered on that front.
Absolutely. So, all of this is, as I've been thinking about a way to kind of summarize what we've been talking about today. Here's what I came up with. Breach and attack simulation and all this that we've been discussing adds up to one thing for the healthcare industry and for those who implement it, and that is really just peace of mind. That's what you're getting with this. And isn't that really what we all want with something like this? Keeping the bad guys out and keeping our records, all the EHR, everything else, so that we are not constantly on edge. That peace of mind is worth its weight in gold. So I want to thank you so much, Hüseyin and Omar, for being on with me today. This was a great conversation, and I would love to do it again one of these days. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Keith.
All right. So what did you think? That was so much fun for me to be a part of. Great conversation. We covered so much about this topic, about this area, about the value of breach and attack simulation. So just fantastic stuff today. Want to thank both of my guests for being on with me. Now, before we get to the prize drawing, which is the very last thing, we do have a quick favor to ask of everyone today. Deanna is opening up a survey that we'd really appreciate if you could all fill out. Again, this is just a short survey for ActualTech Media. We want to know how we're doing and what you like, what you don't like about our session, so we can make these better for you. And while you fill out that survey, which is up now, I'll go over those Picus resources available in the docs tab that I mentioned before. There's so much great stuff here, including a document called the CISO's Guide for Security and Exposure Validation. It's an in-depth document that offers comparisons between BAS and automated penetration testing, data confirmation of the impact of BAS, and an operational roadmap that guides you through integrating BAS solutions into your workflow. Sound great? Yes, indeed. Now, you also find an ebook on how to leverage BAS to optimize security controls and block twice as many threats in just 90 days. Does that sound like something you could use? Well, head over to that docs section and look it up. Now, finally, you're going to find a solution brief on how continuous validation can improve operational efficiency, identify gaps in your security, and get remediation advice. So head over to the docs section and get all that goodness. That's 3 handouts from Picus. And it is yours. It's all free for the taking. They're going like hotcakes, as they always say. And you need to go over there now. And I'm going to ask Deanna to close down the survey now while we get to the prize giveaway. Now, a $250 gift card is what we have for you today, as I mentioned at the beginning. And the winner of that prize today is Alan Herman from Texas. Congrats, Alan. Maybe you'll spend it on a little air conditioner or a big fan that you can sit right next to you. That's what I would do if I won that today. And sit tight, Alan, because we will be in touch about claiming your prize ASAP. And with that, folks, on behalf of the ActualTech Media team, I want to thank Picus for making this event possible. And as always, thanks so much to you attendees for being here with us today. You're the reason we do these, and I can't wait to see you in another one soon. That's it for today, folks. Now, try to stay cool for the rest of the day. I am going to go put some ice on my neck, I think. Have a great one, everyone.